The twin suns of Eldara shone brightly across the palace gardens, making the crystal fountains sparkle like rivers of light. Birds with feathers that glowed in soft colors sang songs that seemed almost magical. The palace itself was a marvel, with towers that reached into the sky and walls that shimmered with a living metal, shifting colors as the sunlight touched them. It was the home of Queen Auralia, ruler of Eldara, a planet where tradition and order governed every life. Her daughter, Princess Leora, moved gracefully through the gardens, her long silver hair trailing behind her. She was known for her beauty and her intelligence, but more than that, for her kind heart. Today, however, the palace seemed different. A ripple of tension ran through the air, and even the humming of the gardens felt quieter than usual. Princess Leora paused near a fountain, tilting her head toward the sky. She felt it before she saw it, a strange disturbance in the space above the palace grounds. The air shimmered and bent, forming a small circle of light. Leora's eyes widened. Few on Eldara had ever witnessed such a phenomenon. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the circle expanded, and something stepped through. It was a human, a man. He looked completely out of place. His clothes were simple, covered in dirt and faint scorch marks. His hair, dark and messy, fell into his eyes, and his boots were worn from travel. He stumbled forward, clutching his side, and collapsed near the fountain. Leora gasped and rushed to his side. "Are you hurt?" she asked, kneeling beside him. Her voice was soft but firm, carrying the calm authority of a princess. The man groaned, his face pale, but he nodded. Leora's eyes widened again. "You're on Eldara," she said. "This is the palace gardens. How did you arrive here?" He shook his head weakly. I don't know. One moment I was on my ship, the next, I'm here. Something pulled me." Leora glanced around. The gardens were empty, the palace staff hidden, watching silently. The air felt tense. She stood slowly, looking at the human with curiosity and caution. "I will help you," she said. "Come with me." Supporting him, she led him toward a quiet chamber where he could rest. The man's steps were uneven, and Leora noticed that his hands trembled slightly. Still, he carried himself with a certain strength, a resilience that made her heart stir with a strange emotion she did not yet understand. Meanwhile, high in the observation towers, Queen Auralia watched. Her sharp eyes studied the scene carefully. "A human," she whispered, her voice tight. Humans were rare visitors in the galaxy, and most aliens regarded them as fragile creatures. They were clever, yes, but hardly suited to the challenges of Eldara. Her daughter had always been expected to marry an alien of noble birth, one who could secure alliances and uphold the traditions of the royal family. Yet, here was a human, walking freely in her palace, and the princess, helping him. Auralia's lips pressed into a thin line. She needed to understand this human before making any decisions. Her first instinct was caution, but curiosity prickled at her. She had never seen a human, up close. Inside the chamber, the human finally sat down on a soft seat. He examined his surroundings, eyes wide with awe. The walls shimmered like liquid metal, and intricate patterns of light floated in the air. He touched a panel on the wall, and it responded, changing colors. This is incredible," he muttered. "I've never seen technology like this." Leora smiled faintly. "Eldara is advanced, yes, but we value more than technology. We value loyalty, courage, and honor." The human looked at her, puzzled. "Loyalty and courage, I think I understand, but I don't know if I can belong here." "You may be surprised," Leora said, her voice gentle. "Sometimes belonging is about more than where you come from." The human nodded slowly, but a flicker of worry crossed his face. I don't know your customs. I don't even know your language fully. Though I can understand some words. Leora reached out, placing her hand lightly on his. You are not the first stranger to arrive here, and you may not be the last. But I will guide you. That evening, the palace was abuzz with whispers. Servants and guards spoke quietly among themselves, some skeptical, some intrigued. The news had spread quickly. A human was in the palace, and Princess Leora had taken an interest. Some muttered that it was dangerous. Others wondered if this human could be more than he seemed. The human's curiosity also grew. He asked questions about Eldara, about its people, its history, and its rulers. Leora answered patiently, though she noticed he was not just curious, he was absorbing every detail with sharp attention, as though preparing himself for challenges yet unseen. Later, as the night deepened, Leora brought him to the balcony overlooking the twin suns. The sky was painted in shades of purple and gold, and the distant mountains reflected the light in a soft glow. It is beautiful here, he said quietly. Yes, Leora agreed. And it can be dangerous too. The palace is protected by more than walls and guards. There are traditions, alliances, and tests that every visitor must face. Even I have faced them. He looked at her, admiration growing in his eyes. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I've never faced anything like this. Leora smiled faintly. You may be braver than you think. And sometimes, courage isn't about being ready. It's about stepping forward when you have no choice. Her words lingered in his mind as he looked out over the horizon. He felt a strange sense of destiny, as if the stars themselves had guided him to this moment. Meanwhile, Queen Aralia moved through her private chambers, deep in thought. She had ruled Eldara for decades, and her decisions shaped the fate of the entire planet. But this human, he was different. He did not bow, he did not beg for favor. Yet there was a calm confidence about him, a spark she could not ignore. She decided that the human must be observed closely. Every action, every word, every gesture would be watched. Over the next few days, the human began to adapt to life in the palace. He learned basic customs, how to address the court, and how to move through the gardens without causing offense. Leora guided him, but she noticed something remarkable. He was clever, quick to learn, and surprisingly, intuitive. He asked questions not just about the palace, but about the people, their hopes, fears, and motivations. One morning, he helped a gardener repair a broken irrigation system. Not with alien tools, but using ingenuity and simple human methods. The garden flourished under his care, and whispers of admiration spread through the palace staff. The princess watched him quietly, impressed by his willingness to act, to solve problems, and to help others without seeking reward. It was during one of these moments that Queen Aralia summoned the human for the first time. The great throne room was vast, with ceilings so high that lanterns hung like stars. The queen's presence was imposing, her silver hair gleaming, her eyes sharp and piercing. She motioned for him to approach. The human walked forward carefully, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty," he said respectfully. Aralia studied him for a long moment. "You are a human," she said finally. "I have heard of your kind. Clever, resourceful, but fragile. Why are you here?" The human met her gaze. "I did not come here intentionally, Your Majesty. I was pulled through a portal I cannot explain. But I am here now, and I wish no harm. I only wish to survive, and to help where I can." The queen's lips curved slightly, though it was not a smile. "You speak boldly for one so far from home. Most humans would cower in the presence of Eldara's royalty. Yet you do not." He nodded. "I cannot pretend to be something I'm not. I can only do my best." Whoa! Auralia's eyes softened slightly. She saw courage in him. Yes, but also something more, a quality rare among aliens as well. Integrity. Very well, she said. You will remain under observation, and Princess Leora will guide you. For now. But know this. Eldara is not a forgiving world. You must prove yourself. Human. Otherwise. She let the sentence hang in the air, leaving the unspoken consequences clear. The human bowed again. I understand, Your Majesty. As he left the throne room, he felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. He did not fully understand the challenges ahead, but one thing was clear. He had already begun to change the lives of those around him, and perhaps unknowingly, he had already begun to change himself. That night, Princess Leora stood on her balcony once more, looking up at the stars. She thought of the human and the spark she had seen in his eyes, a spark that reflected courage, intelligence, and something human. She could not yet imagine where this journey would lead. But she felt certain of one thing. The human would not leave her world unchanged. And somewhere deep in the palace, Queen Auralia observed quietly, her mind racing with possibilities. A human in Eldara was unprecedented. But perhaps, just perhaps, this human could be extraordinary. The stars shone over the palace as the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the gardens. And in those shadows, the human slept for the first time on Eldara. Unaware of the trials, friendships, and loyalties that awaited him. The morning light spilled across the palace courtyard, painting the polished stone floors in gold and amber. Birds chirped softly, and the fountains whispered in their gentle rhythm. For the human, waking up on Eldara had become a strange new routine. Though he had only been on the planet a few days, each day brought new challenges, new questions, and an increasing sense of responsibility. Princess Leora was waiting for him near the central fountain, her expression calm but determined. Today will not be easy, she said, her silver hair catching the sunlight. The Queen has decided it is time you prove yourself not just to her, but to Eldara itself. The human stood straighter, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Prove myself? How? He asked. Leora glanced toward the palace towers, where guards and observers already waited. The Queen has set 3 trials. They will test your courage, intelligence, and morality. If you succeed, you will gain respect in the palace, and perhaps even the Queen's approval. He nodded, swallowing his anxiety. I'll do my best. Their first stop was the training grounds, where Eldara's warriors honed their skills. Strange creatures, part reptile, part bird, scuttled and soared across the arena, controlled by the trainers. Leora explained that the first trial was of courage. He had to capture a creature known as a Gryphora, a large beast with glowing eyes and sharp claws. The human studied the creature carefully. Unlike many who relied purely on force, he observed its patterns and behavior. He noticed that it hesitated before each attack, that it reacted to movement with predictable timing. Using simple human ingenuity, he built a small trap using ropes and nets from the surrounding environment, staying hidden until the Gryphora stepped into it. With a swift pull, the trap activated, securing the creature without causing harm. The crowd of trainees and observers gasped. None had expected a human to succeed. Especially not without a weapon of Eldara. Princess Leora smiled quietly, her heart swelling with pride. The human turned to her with a sheepish grin. I hope I didn't hurt it. No harm was done, she said. You are clever. And cleverness counts as much as strength here. After the first trial, the second began. A test of intelligence. The Queen had prepared a series of puzzles, each more complex than the last. They involved alien mathematics, logic sequences, and patterns that even some of Eldara's young nobles struggled to solve. The human studied the puzzles, tapping into his own understanding of logic and deduction. Though the alien symbols were unfamiliar, he noticed patterns that were universal. He approached the puzzles methodically, thinking through each step, and soon solved them with solutions that surprised the Eldaran observers. Some of the nobles whispered among themselves, impressed by the human's abilities. Princess Leora watched closely, marveling at the calm determination he displayed. "You are unlike any human I have heard of," she said softly. "Perhaps because I've never had a choice," he replied, smiling faintly. "When you are alone in the universe, you learn to solve problems, or you fail." Finally, the third trial began. This was the most difficult, a test of morality. The Queen had orchestrated a scenario in which the human would find a small alien village under threat from a natural disaster. The villagers were frightened, and the human had to decide how to act. Many Eldaran nobles, when faced with similar situations, would follow strict rules or wait for orders. But the human acted immediately, organizing villagers to safety, finding safe paths, and helping carry supplies. Even when a dangerous situation arose, a collapsing bridge over a chasm, the human risked himself to save a small child, showing courage and compassion simultaneously. Leora could not hide her admiration. She had seen many brave warriors, but this human had something more: empathy. By the time the trials ended, word of his accomplishments spread quickly through the palace. Observers, nobles, and even the Queen herself had taken notice. They were all surprised that a human, considered fragile by many, had passed all trials not by alien strength or technology, but through intelligence, creativity, and moral courage. Queen Aralia summoned the human to the throne room. He entered with careful steps, bowing respectfully. She observed him with piercing eyes, silent for several long moments. Then, she spoke. "You have done well, human," she said. "Few have succeeded where you have, and none have done so without harm or deceit. You have proven your courage, your intelligence, and your morality. Yet," her eyes narrowed slightly, "you are not yet fully known. Trials test skill, but they do not reveal loyalty, nor the depth of your character." The human nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will do my best to prove myself in all ways." The Queen studied him, her mind calculating. "Very well. You will continue to learn and grow under Princess Leora's guidance. But know this: Eldara is a world of alliances, politics, and power. Strength alone is not enough. You must learn to navigate both the heart and the mind." The human bowed again. Over the next several days, he continued his lessons with Leora, learning about Eldara's history, customs, and court politics. He observed how alliances were formed and how loyalty could be both a weapon and a shield. He began to understand that being human was not a disadvantage here. It was a unique perspective, a way to see solutions others might miss. One afternoon, while exploring the palace gardens, the human stumbled upon a small group of alien nobles arguing heatedly. Their voices were sharp, their expressions full of suspicion. They had heard of the human's success and were plotting to challenge his place in the court. He observed quietly, then stepped forward. "You are upset," he said calmly. "Perhaps I can help solve this without fighting." The nobles turned, surprised that a human would speak so confidently. He suggested a solution that balanced their concerns and maintained honor for all involved. They hesitated, then accepted his proposal. It was the first time many of them realized that human thinking, practical, direct, and creative, could solve problems without conflict. Princess Leora, watching from a distance, smiled. The human shrugged. "I've had to. Survival teaches you fast." That evening, as the twin suns set, Leora led him to a quiet balcony. Below them, the palace glowed in soft, golden light. "You have done more than survive," she said. You have begun to earn respect, not just from me, but from many others. I hope the Queen sees it that way too, he said, glancing toward the tower where Aralia often watched. She has noticed, Leora replied softly, but you must be careful. Respect is not the same as trust. The Queen values loyalty above all. Days passed, and the palace began to adjust to the human's presence. He became a figure of intrigue, both admired and watched closely. His courage, intelligence, and compassion were evident, yet every step he took was scrutinized. Leora continued to guide him, teaching not just survival and skill, but diplomacy, etiquette, and the subtle art of understanding Eldara's complex social fabric. One evening, a minor crisis erupted. A group of young nobles attempted to trick him into breaking palace rules. Hoping to discredit him, the human responded calmly, using his ingenuity and careful observation to turn the situation around. He exposed the ruse without anger or insult, impressing even those who had doubted him. Princess Leora watched with quiet pride. "You truly are extraordinary," she whispered. "I'm just trying to do what's right," he replied. "That's all I can do." By the end of part 2, the palace had begun to shift. The human was no longer just a visitor or curiosity. He was a presence to be acknowledged, respected, and perhaps even admired. Even the Queen, who had begun as wary and cautious, felt a grudging respect growing within her. The trials had tested his courage, intelligence, and morality. But they had also revealed something else: the human's potential to change the hearts and minds of those around him. For Princess Leora, it was clear that he was no ordinary being, and for the human, it was becoming clear that his arrival on Eldara was no accident. It was the beginning of a journey that could alter the fate of an entire world. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the palace gardens, the human stood beside Princess Leora, gazing out at the world he had begun to call home. A strange sense of destiny stirred within him. He did not yet know the challenges ahead, but he felt ready. For the first time since arriving on Eldara, he felt that he truly belonged, at least in part, and that the trials ahead, though difficult, could be faced with courage, intelligence, and a human heart. The palace of Eldara buzzed with whispered conversations and cautious glances. The human's presence had shifted the usual rhythm of life. Some nobles admired him secretly, others regarded him with suspicion, and a few plotted quietly against him. Eldara had always been a world of rules, alliances, and traditions, and a stranger, especially a human, challenged everything. Princess Leora walked through the long corridors with the human beside her. "Not everyone will accept you," she said softly. "Some see you as a threat. You must be careful." He nodded, studying the expressions of the passing nobles. "I understand, but I can't ignore them. I can't just hide." Leora smiled faintly. "That is what makes you different. But here, being different can be dangerous." Their first sign of real trouble came when a message arrived from the Council of Elders. They demanded an audience with the human, questioning his right to remain in the palace. The council was composed of powerful alien figures, some loyal to the Queen, others skeptical of change. Their tone was sharp, their questions probing. The human entered the council chamber, standing tall despite the tension in the room. He bowed politely, acknowledging each member. "I am honored to meet you," he said calmly. "I will answer your questions honestly." A council member, a tall alien with deep violet skin and golden eyes, spoke first. "Human, why should you be allowed to remain in Eldara? You are not of our world, nor our traditions. Many see you as dangerous." The human met the alien's gaze steadily. "I did not come here by choice. But now that I am here, I will do everything I can to help your people. I do not seek power, only to act with respect, courage, and honesty." Another member sneered. "And yet, You have already gained the princess's attention. Do you not see the danger in that? The human shook his head. I respect the princess, yes, but I would never harm her or her world. My presence is meant to protect, not to destroy. The council murmured among themselves, some impressed, others unconvinced. The princess entered quietly, standing beside the human. He has proven himself, she said firmly. He has passed the queen's trials. He has acted with courage, intelligence, and compassion. That is more than many of you have done. Her words carried weight, and the council fell silent. Some members shifted uncomfortably, but the human's calm demeanor and the princess's support earned him a grudging respect. That night, as the twin suns set and the palace bathed in golden light, Leora and the human walked along the garden paths. It will not be easy, she said. Some will continue to test you, to try to remove you. I know, he replied. But I can face them. I have to. I won't let anyone harm you, or the people here. Leora glanced at him, her silver hair catching the last rays of sunlight. That is why I trust you. Your heart is strong, even if your body is not like ours. The following days brought real danger. A rival noble faction, seeing the human as a threat to their power, orchestrated an ambush. During a formal event in the palace courtyard, an explosive device intended to frighten and intimidate the princess was triggered. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed, and guards rushed to contain the situation. Without hesitation, the human acted. He shielded the princess with his body, using his strength and quick reflexes to push her out of harm's way. He guided fleeing guests to safety, coordinated with the palace guards, and even managed to defuse a secondary device with a clever use of tools and observation. When the smoke cleared and the palace guards regained control, the human stood in the center of the courtyard, uninjured but exhausted. The princess looked at him, her eyes wide with admiration. You risked your life for me, she whispered. He shook his head. I could not let anyone be hurt. Not you, not them. I had to act. Word of his heroism spread quickly through the palace. Even the nobles who had doubted him could not deny his courage and quick thinking. The queen, who had observed the event from her chambers, finally spoke. You have shown loyalty, courage, and wisdom, human, she said. Actions speak louder than trials. Today, you have proven that your heart is as strong as any warrior's. The human bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I believed was right. The queen studied him for a long moment. Indeed, but loyalty is tested in more ways than battles. There are still decisions to be made, alliances to maintain, and dangers unseen. You must remain vigilant. I will, he said firmly. Over the next few weeks, the human continued to navigate the delicate balance of palace life. He attended council meetings, learning to understand Eldara's complex politics. He mediated disputes, offered solutions to logistical problems, and became a source of calm and reason during tense situations. His presence changed how others perceived humans. No longer fragile, no longer outsiders, they saw potential, courage, and intelligence that could complement their own strengths. One evening, Leora took him to a quiet chamber where they often spoke privately. The room overlooked a serene lake, reflecting the colors of the twin suns as they set. You have done more than survive, she said. You have begun to earn the respect of those around you. But there will always be challenges ahead. You must remain careful, but also true to yourself. He looked at the reflection of the suns on the water. I've learned something, he said slowly. Being human. It's not a weakness. It gives me perspective. I see solutions others might miss. I can act quickly, but also think of consequences. That is what matters here. Leora smiled faintly. And that is why you have begun to change Eldara. not through strength alone, but through your heart and mind. A sudden alert interrupted their conversation. A border outpost reported unusual activity. A small group of alien raiders attempting to breach Eldara's defenses. The human did not hesitate. He followed Leora and the palace guards to the situation, analyzing the terrain, the raiders' movement, and the safest way to protect the outpost and civilians. He devised a plan using strategy and observation rather than sheer force. The palace guards executed the plan, with the human coordinating and offering guidance at every step. The raiders were captured without major injuries, their attack foiled by careful planning and quick thinking. Once again, the human proved that courage alone was not enough. Intelligence, observation, and compassion were equally vital. The queen, observing from the palace, could not hide her approval. She began to see that this human was not just a visitor. He was a force that could strengthen Eldara in ways she had never anticipated. That night, as celebrations echoed through the palace, the human and Leora stood on the balcony. The twin moons rose, casting silver light across the gardens. "You've done more than I ever expected," Leora said. "Even the queen's doubts are fading." The human looked at her. "I only hope I can continue to live up to what's expected. I don't want to fail anyone." Ride. 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 "You won't fail," she said firmly. "Not if you stay true to yourself. That is what makes you different. And that is why you will succeed." In the shadows of the palace, Queen Auralia watched silently. She had always believed in strength, in tradition, in order. But the human, this strange, unexpected being, had demonstrated qualities that were rare, even among Eldara's finest. Courage, intelligence, loyalty, and compassion, all in one. He had risked his life without hesitation. He had solved problems with his mind. He had acted with morality when others might have hesitated. For the first time, Auralia wondered if perhaps humans were more than fragile outsiders. Perhaps they possessed something powerful, something Eldara had never truly understood. The humans' trials were not over. Eldara was a complex world, full of politics, hidden dangers, and challenges, yet unseen. But one thing was clear. He had already begun to prove that humans were capable of greatness. And as the twin moons reflected in the palace lakes, he stood beside Princess Leora, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The bond between human and princess had strengthened, earning not just respect, but trust. Yet the court still watched. The nobles still whispered. And the queen still measured every move. The stage was set for the next chapter, a test not of skill or courage, but of loyalty, heart, and destiny. For now, though, the human had won a place in the palace, not through alien strength or force, but through qualities that could never be taught. Courage, intelligence, morality, and a human heart, an example that even Eldara's proud rulers could not ignore. The palace of Eldara gleamed under the light of twin moons, casting silver and violet reflections across the crystal floors. For weeks, the human had proven his worth through courage, intelligence, and loyalty. But still, the queen watched silently. Every step he took, every word he spoke, was measured against Eldara's long history of tradition and honor. Princess Leora walked beside him in the quiet gardens, her expression thoughtful. "Tomorrow, you will meet the queen formally," she said softly. "Not just as a visitor, but as someone who seeks acceptance in this world. Are you ready?" R. The human looked at her, then at the glowing fountains that reflected the moon's light. "I've done what I could. I've faced dangers, solved problems, protected others. I can't control what she thinks, but I can be honest, and I can stand for what is right. That is all you can do," Leora said, taking his hand briefly. "It is enough." The next morning, The throne room was prepared for a formal audience. Eldara's nobles, advisors, and guards gathered silently. The air was tense. Every eye watched the human. Many whispered doubts, wondering how a being from another world could ever be accepted into Eldara's royal fold. The human entered carefully, bowing respectfully before the queen. Auralia sat upon her throne, radiating authority. Her silver hair shimmered, and her golden eyes studied him with a mixture of curiosity, caution, and something harder to define interest. "You have done well," she began, her voice echoing through the hall. "Your trials have been completed. Your actions observed. You have faced danger, solved problems, and acted with loyalty and morality. Few beings, alien or human, could have done as you have." The human bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I have only tried to do what I thought was right." Auralia leaned forward slightly, her expression unreadable. "You speak with honesty and humility. Yet you are not of Eldara. Your place here is not guaranteed. Tell me, why should I trust you?" The human met her gaze steadily. "I cannot demand trust. I can only show it with my actions. Every decision I have made has been to protect your people, the princess, and the palace. I do not seek power or reward. I only seek to do what is right." A hush fell over the throne room. Even the nobles, many of whom had doubted him, were silent. Princess Leora stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "He has proven himself more than anyone could ask," she said. "Not by alien standards, not by rules of Eldara, but by courage, wisdom, and loyalty. He has acted with a human heart. Yes, but it is a heart that has earned my trust, my respect, and my choice." The human's eyes widened slightly, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Queen Auralia's gaze shifted from him to her daughter. "Your choice?" she asked, her tone measured. Leora stepped closer to the human. "Yes, mother. This is the man I have chosen." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Chosen? How? By what authority do you declare this? How?" The human spoke gently, understanding the weight of her question. "Your Majesty, I have no desire to overstep. I respect all customs and laws of Eldara, but my life is now here, beside the princess, and my actions have always been guided by loyalty and honor. I do not seek to disrupt your rule, only to stand beside her, as a partner and protector." Silence filled the throne room once more. The nobles whispered in low tones, and some faces showed surprise, others skepticism. But the queen's gaze remained focused on the human and her daughter. For a long moment, Queen Auralia said nothing. Then, slowly, she rose from her throne. Her presence was imposing, yet her expression softened just slightly. "You have shown courage beyond expectation, intelligence beyond understanding, and loyalty beyond doubt," she said. "You have faced Eldara's trials, not with alien might, but with a human heart. That heart has proven itself worthy." The human bowed once more, though his hands trembled slightly with emotion. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will honor your trust and the princess's choice." The queen turned her gaze to Leora. "And you, my daughter? You have chosen him willingly?" Leora nodded. "Yes, mother. He has earned my trust, my respect, and my heart. I choose him, not because he is human, but because he is courageous, loyal, and kind. He stands for what is right, and he has shown me the strength of his heart." The queen's golden eyes softened further. She studied the human carefully, then reached out a hand, resting it briefly on his shoulder. "Then you shall be recognized, not merely as a visitor, but as someone who belongs here. You have earned your place, not by birthright, but by character. That is the greatest honor Eldara can grant." The throne room seemed to exhale as whispers of admiration replaced skepticism. Nobles bowed, acknowledging him with newfound respect. The human straightened, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and deep humility. He had never imagined that a human could be welcomed into an alien royal palace. Yet here he stood, recognized and accepted. Princess Leora stepped closer to him, smiling gently. "You have done more than survive here," she said. "You have changed minds, hearts, and perhaps even this world." He looked at her, a soft smile forming. "Trust is earned every day," she said, "and you have earned mine." The queen watched silently, then spoke one final time. "Let it be known, across Eldara, the human is accepted. The princess has chosen him, and he shall stand beside her as a partner, a protector, and a friend. Let all remember that courage, wisdom, loyalty, and a good heart transcend worlds, species, and tradition." A quiet cheer rippled through the throne room, though many held their voices. Even the strictest nobles could not deny the truth. The human had proven himself not just through trials or courage, but through loyalty, intelligence, and morality. Later, as the palace settled into evening, the human and Leora walked through the gardens once more. The fountains glimmered under the moonlight, and the gentle glow of alien flowers lit their path. "You have changed this world," Leora said softly. "And perhaps, in your own way, you have changed me too." He looked at her, humility and admiration shining in his eyes. "I did what I had to do. But you made it possible. You believed in me, guided me, and trusted me. I only followed that path." Leora smiled, a quiet warmth in her expression. "Then we have followed this path together." That night, the palace was peaceful. Guards patrolled silently, the fountains whispered, and the twin moons reflected in the crystal walls. But within that peace, something new had begun. A bond, not just between human and princess, but between two worlds. Queen Aralia, standing on her private balcony, looked at the stars. She had ruled Eldara for decades, and she had never seen a human with such courage, wisdom, and loyalty. Perhaps her people would never fully understand it. Perhaps some nobles would always doubt. But one truth was clear. This human had earned his place, and in doing so, he had reminded Eldara that greatness could come from anywhere, even from a world so different. The human stood beside Princess Leora, watching the twin moons rise over the palace towers. For the first time since arriving, he felt a complete sense of belonging. He had proven his courage, intelligence, and loyalty. He had faced danger, solved problems, and protected those in need. And now, he had been accepted not just by the queen, not just by the palace, but by the princess herself. In a soft voice, Leora said, "Mother asked who you are." I replied. She turned to the queen, then back to him, her eyes shining. "The man I married." The words echoed through the halls, carrying weight and warmth. The queen's stern expression softened completely, a rare smile appearing on her face. Nobles bowed and whispered, the palace acknowledging the bond between human and princess. The human looked at Leora, awe and gratitude filling his heart. I will honor this, always," he said. "I know you will," she replied, taking his hand, "because your heart has already shown me the truth. Courage, loyalty, and kindness are stronger than any tradition, stronger than any rule. They define a person more than birthright ever could." The palace was quiet again, but it no longer felt tense. A new chapter had begun, not just for the human, not just for the princess, but for all of Eldara. A chapter where two worlds met, hearts were tested, and a human had proven that greatness comes not from species, but from character. As the twin moons reflected on the palace lakes, The human and Princess Leora stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next, not as visitor and guide, not as alien and human, but as partners, equals, and family. And for the first time in his life, the human knew that he was exactly where he belonged,